Hello everyone, I'm Beatrix, aka Era, and I'm here with a special guest, Katsumi. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I'm Katsumi, also known as Haplogynae. I am streamer, Shintoist shrine maiden at the Tamura Shrine when I was younger. Hi.
Welcome. So, we will go over the trailer today, and we will talk a bit about the current season and the theme of like yokai and the mythology surrounding all of this. And yeah, I think it will be fun.
Hmm.
As a child, I was taught never to fear the dark, to face my enemies with gritted teeth and a steady grip on my blade. But now, my hands tremble. Something has awakened in the mire. Glowing eyes watch in the night. Shadows slither through the woods, and twisted cackles taunt us. Brave samurai venture into the swamps. But what comes back? It isn't them. A deadly web has been woven and there is no escape. My teachings were wrong. Only fools don't fear the dark.
In the first few seconds of the trailer, we can already see like a kind of gate, or as we found out later in the lore orders, a cave, which seems to be under a tree or like below a tree, with one of these. Do you call it like? Is it a gate? Can you tell me what that is? Maybe like that gate or in front of the cave.
Yeah, so the gate is really just it is called Tori. So what it really is it's an entrance to a sacred area. There's always usually a road that kind of leads into it, which is important. Which it's called the Sando, and then it has the Tori going into it. It's used for all kinds of things like the passing through an area for kami, to go again into sacred spaces, to bring yourself under the gate is to bring yourself into a well-worshipped area, often with places like, you know, what you see in the picture, a cave, a fissure, and a tree, kind of like passing through a theoretical barrier to enshrine yourself into a different kind of like energy through where it goes. It's different compared to in the Furana universe compared to in real life, because a lot of the time in real life, if you cross under a Tori, nothing will really happen because there's no metaphysical connection and stuff like that. But in Furana, where these what they call mythologies are real, it's actually a completely different thing. For us, we could just walk through the Tori, right? It's no change for you, right? But for, say, yokai, or especially the kami, they aren't exactly able to pass through and forth. It's our land here on this side, and it could be kind of like their land on that side. But the gate doesn't really lead to a specific yokai infested place or a kami horde place, unlike what it kind of looks like in the cover art of this season. But in Furana season, it would seem that it actually is a direct barrier for the yokai and Shinto people.
Yeah, because in the law orders that we have until now, like we're recording this on Sunday, so that's like 4 days after the season started, which is 3 days of in-game lore like orders you can read. And what we found out already is that so basically this cave behind this Tori gate, right? Tori gate? Okay. This Tori, okay. The cave behind that gate is basically a prison for yokai that were basically the samurai fought the yokai and like kind of like were drawing them to that, or were like fighting them in back into that cave, or like forcing them back into that cave. So then they sealed it somehow, which I don't know how they did it, but they sealed it, and that's where they remained until now. So I don't know if maybe the tree has any symbolism or any like meaning for this, or like or if that's if it wouldn't matter if there was a tree or not, or but I always feel like there's like trees have some kind of meaning in these like mythological places and other things you can see in real life. So I don't know, can you say something about that? Like, do you think that tree has anything to do with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it may be a bit different compared to in the universe compared to real life, but the closest thing that I could attribute this to is what's called a yorishiro. And it's what a yorishiro is basically it's an object or entity or anything of the kind of thing that is capable of housing kami. However, in a corrupt sense, as in the lore, this could also potentially be reversed and used to hold yokai. Because yokai are also considered, as you know, strange little spirits, kind of different things, all kinds of things. There's so many different kinds, and we'll get to that later for sure. But right now, what I think this is it was originally a yorishiro, and then with all the little markings and decorations and all that cool stuff, it became a shintai, which is the one you use when it is actually housing kami, or I guess in this case yokai. So what this shintai is, it's acting as the building, I suppose, in which the yokai are living in, or in this case banished to. And it holds the power to contain them and to hold them, and all that good stuff. And I think that, as we mentioned before, the Tori is meant to be like the front gates, perhaps, right? Now, the important thing is, if it was actually housing kami, a little fun fact, you'd want to call it go shintai. Like it's more respectful. It's properly referring to the body of the kami, but since I'm assuming it's holding the yokai, I'm not going to give it that prefix, so I'm just calling it the shintai, and it's really cool. It does seem like it's a tree that has grown out of a cave that looks like it was once hidden underground, and the fish is very scary and all that stuff. But,
that is really cool. Like I always love these kind of like I always love when nature is involved in mythology like that. It's just so like it makes everything more mythical. I think it's just because nature itself is so old, and to have it connected to like yokai and spirits like this is just making it feel more, I don't know, spooky. Spooky, but also very interesting.
Yeah, and it's all very, very natural. You think that a lot of this is like maybe created by people or something like that, when in truth, we are such a small sum compared to the great picture of the kami that we are just another number in the list,
That is so. I love these things where like we are just like a small little little piece in the universe or in the in the world of, or I don't know, are there different like planes or like dimensions or something like that in Shintoism, or
It's a little bit. It's almost like that. So, there is obviously Warada, which is Earth or Mars or space or wherever you want to go, right? They didn't really think about this at the time of the founding and understanding of Shintoism, so they weren't thinking of like Andromeda when they were
Oh, yeah, okay.
understanding the creation of Warada. But the best way to explain it is in a very simplified, and this is very simplified form, is there is normal ground, there is sacred ground, and there is, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it heaven as the closest understanding, but it's not really. But I'll explain that right now. So normal ground is the regular place where we live. It's the mundane. It's the normal. It's the ground you're walking on. It's still very much with respect, of course, because anything can house kami, right? But it's the Warada. Then there's sacred ground. Sacred ground is cleansed and gone through so many rites to say, yes, it's like cleaning your house because a really important guest is coming over, right? But it's done in a very, obviously, the religious sense, so that it's very proper, very good, these rocks are going here, these trees are going here, we're going to rake the garden really nicely, and we're going to put our little, our shrine here, or if it's at home, it could be like a kamidana, which is like your home shrine kind of thing. You could be nice and sacred, so, because you don't want your friend or important person to come into a pigsty, right? But it just so happens that doing this makes it more sacred, more, for lack of a better word, holy, I guess, for the kami. And then there is what I will call the heaven, or I call spirit warada. The weird real word escapes me now, but for lack of a better word, the closest assumption is heaven, but it's not exactly like the heaven that you know in Catholicism or Christianity or similar. It's simply the term coined for kami to exist. And kami can be good, kami can be bad, it can be malevolent or good people, it can be anything. But that's just their world. We don't go into their world. And you've never seen them come into our world because that would be scary. You don't want to see Amaterasu show up in our world because then where's the sun going to go? All these good things. So instead, in sacred grounds, we have little things like the kamitana or the shintai, or go shintai, more importantly, to house these kami, kind of like having a really nice, expensive chair for your friend to sit in, right? Something like, I cleaned it, I took out all the crumbs, I mean nice and clean, but in this case, it's kind of like, yes, I have blessed this, I've got your food, your drink, I've got everything for you to have a good, comfortable stay so we can talk to you, pray to you, wish good tidings upon you, hope you wish us the same, and then eventually they will leave and you'll say, thank you for your time, I appreciate you.
that is so cool. That reminds me also a little bit of like the way you describe the, I would say like the plane of the like kami. I always.
Kami.
It sounds a little bit as if they are just like us, in a way. Like they're just also like
They are.
good, bad, boring, ambitious, all these things.
Yep, they are as diverse and crazy as us. They could be nice, they could be bad, they could be smart, they could be dumb. All these good things. It's just a different form.
That sounds really cool.
They are greater than us, but we are not ignorant,
Yeah. The next thing that actually was catching my eye like instantly when watching the trailer is after a bit we can see Hitokiri there, standing there, and I assume that is Sakura, who might also be singing in the, or like, I don't know if you could call it singing, but you can hear her voice, I think, in the seasonal theme. And what the people watching don't know is I talked to you, or like I wrote to you like before back then, even when Kyoshin came out, and there was already like she probably was also already singing the theme, and I want to ask you like, what do you think is her connection to like the current season, but also for the people who don't know yet what is your connection to the Kyoshin and to the current season?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So Sakura is, as you know, Hitokiri, as the term is, or I guess, murderer, as they want to call it. But it's really, she has obviously a huge obsession with souls, and naturally they're in yokai. So you can tell, a lot of her voice lines when she's attacking somebody or killing somebody. It's like, your soul belongs to me. It's all very, very like, like, give me your soul, give me your life. Very much so like a soul vampire almost. And her belts and various different things on her, again, the name eludes me, houses that energy, like it could be souls, it could be the all sorts of things. It could be the yurei, which are a version of ghosts. So, originally, when we were discussing about the Kyoshin and the Hitokiri, so as you know, the Kyoshin were people who were banished because they was not to have yokai inhabiting their body, right? Like almost like a possession.
Yes.
Now, you know who's going to go after that?
Yeah, of course.
Going after the
Sakura.
pariahs, you could say.
Hungry for their souls.
Exactly. So, my theory is that since originally Sakura is going after the people like the Kyoshin, for their issues and all the little, the yokai want to get the souls, got to quote unquote purify, from the yokai. Clearly she's had a mission. We're just talking about Sakura, if she's so doggedly going after them, she has clearly got a mission against the yokai, right? Or for them, who knows? But that would naturally lead somebody like Sakura to the cave trees, I will call it. Because that's what a lot of those yokai are. There's obviously yokai are escaping the cave, at least in like small little droves, because these Kyoshin are still possessed by yokai, or at least believed to be, so clearly they must be coming from somewhere. So Sakura must have done her research and gone, this cave must be holding a lots of these evil, spooky ghosts. So let's go take a look at that. And for all I know, Sakura is looking to release them, or capture them for her own purposes, or using a demon dagger to get rid of them for good. Who knows?
So basically, to sum this up, like, could probably be Sakura who opened that cave again for either releasing the yokai onto like the mire to, I don't know, I guess just bring chaos, which I don't know if that would fit her, or to which is something that we come to later, to let the samurai be possessed so she can actually hunt their souls. I don't know if that is maybe a thing that could be possible.
I feel like Sakura would be a little too disconnected from things like the faction war to really care about that. Like, I can't imagine Sakura's main intention is like, yes, I want to make the war big once more. I want a big fight. No, I don't think that's what she's looking for. My theory is, since the demon dagger broke, which was the key to the door, I suppose you could say, that allowed the yokai, the yurei, to come out. And for a little bit of a clarification, yurei is, as I said, basically just ghosts. Quite literally, it means like a dim soul, right? Yurei, like a dim soul. So, naturally, someone who likes souls would want that, right? So my theory is that this was a personal objective. Purely conjecture, by the way. I believe this is a pure personal objective Sakura going on her own to try and find the source of where all these yokai are coming from. Why are the Kyoshin here? Why do they have them? And I believe whether it was intentional or by mistake, she has released them for one reason or another, perhaps in some attempt to contain them herself, or who knows.
That is ultra interesting. Like, I'm really looking forward to maybe hear more about this from like the lore or like the devs at one point. Because I feel like in the lore right now she seems to be the most active, I would say, side character. I mean, she's not really a side character for me, but you know, for people who like only care about the big names, like, you know, Holden, Apollyon, Estrella. I feel like she still has like the most stuff to do. If that's all true, that she's like...
Isn't she one of the only heroes with 2 seasons basically dedicated to her?
I mean, she had her, obviously her release season in year 3, season 2. The next season, when I think she was like present, that was on Kyoshin release at year 5, season 2. That was also where she was singing, and I remember I was showing you the theme song and asked you if you can make out anything of it, and I don't know, were you like hearing anything out of that singing back then?
Oh, that was a while ago. Actually, yeah, I remember listening to that a long while ago. I'm sorry I haven't listened to it recently again, because so my brain is drained. But
I think it was
very
about
cryptic and archaic.
Sorry. I was just thinking that I think I remember that you said that from that singing you could hear something about yokai and stuff, like her wanting them,
Absolutely.
or her like being
Yeah,
angry at them or something.
Think of like an angry love ballad to
Oh, so basically like what most players have to For Honor, like she has to yokai.
Yes, she exactly. Maybe a little more hate than love in this situation, huh? But
So yeah, still Jack as the average For Honor player.
yeah, when the average player would have a love-hate relationship, you know, I would say that Sakura has a love-hate relationship with yokai.
So maybe it's like some kind of morbid curiosity she has.
Exactly. It's an. I would argue that Sakura is extremely divinely connected, even if on a sick, nice, sadistic level. And because of that, she has her own divine mission. I would call her almost a missionary for the yokai, which is a very edgy term that you'd probably see on like roleplay boards. But I think she's very well connected, even if it's not exactly morally astute. I will wrap it up by saying, in a very simple way, I do think that Sakura has had many hints to her hunt for the yokai. And that this is a culmination, I would say, and the end game, perhaps, of her mission. And that this is like the finale of her goal.
I really wonder what that will be, or what she tries to achieve with. I mean, something I could see, since in the event trailer for Visions of the Kyoshin back in year 5, we heard a Hitokiri, like a female Hitokiri talking. I just don't know if that was Sakura or if that was just any Hitokiri. But if it was Sakura, she was saying, like she was talking about an old wisdom, like resurfacing, basically, that from destruction comes power. And I don't know if that has maybe still anything to do with what we see now, or since, I mean, the yokai are kind of like, you know, just kind of like a destructive force in the lore right now, you could say.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. The closest thing I can attribute it to current events is with destruction of the demon dagger comes power in form of the released yokai. So it very well could be Sakura or other Hitokiri are looking to obtain power through holding the yokai. Because if you could control the yokai or capture them to your will, you would be a god or goddess. You would be as close to the kami as you could ever expect
So she
to
would be like
in power at all.
a mortal goddess controlling yokai. If that is her goal, then holy shit, that is actually pretty intense.
You never know. We don't know much about her intentions, but that is my guess. I can't imagine she's very, high morality.
We know she is allied with the Order of Hawkers and Estrella, and something that I actually just today was like digging up again from my screenshots is there is an ornament called the Yorimashi of Hawkers, and it has I'm gonna send this to you right now. It has a very fitting symbolism, I think, and maybe you could tell me what a Yorimashi is, and what it could have, like, what the symbolism could have to do with all of this.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, I actually never saw this. This is really cool. Yeah, Yorimashi. Yorimashi is quite literally a possessed person. Like, it's literally a person who's possessed. Which is actually really interesting. When I referenced Yorishiro, which is an object capable of housing kami, right? Excuse me. Oh, I am still recovering a little bit from the cold. So when I mentioned a Yorishiro, there's also a Yorimashi. And that's if a person wishes or plays the role of the Yorishiro. So instead of like the tree or a rock or anything holding the spirit of the kami or yokai, it could be a Yorimashi, also known as a person. So the person would house the spirit of the kami, or again, yokai, and would become possessed. But not possessed in the way that you think of, like, now the entire old personality is gone, and it's the new person. No. Usually they just house the power and spirit of whatever kami that is within them. So, quite literally, Yorimashi of Hokos, I would imagine those are two separate titles, Yorimashi but of Hokos, which would imply that Hitokiri is a vessel for yokai. I can't imagine many kami would be interested in Sakura, but so I would say that with all the soul she's getting, all the yurei she's getting, she is becoming a vessel for whatever kami or spirit that wish to hold her.
So that's maybe what she's trying to do. She tries to be a Yorimashi to get all these like the power of the yokai that she, like, I guess, invites. Could you say inviting? Because I think, if I remember correctly, from when I was looking that up on my own back then, a Yorimashi has to be like consenting and has to invite yokai to be possessed, right?
Exactly. Because it's not the same as a forceful possession that is usually done by yokai. I believe, let me try to think, yokai possession would be Ikiryo, or I guess in some cases, okay, then let me explain three differences. If both parties are consenting, it's Yorimashi, right? It's yes, please, fill my body with your energy, allow me to be the Shintai, allow me to house you, to be your vessel. And then the kami would go, yes, I agree, I think you're a worthy vessel, I shall inhabit you, and we will work in tandem in a greater symbiosis. Then there's Ikiryo, which is a type of yurei that tend to haunt quite a lot, and they're the closest kind of thing you can imagine as a possessing ghost, right? And Ikiryo can possess bodies without their consent, but usually not for an evil purpose. I mean, they can, but a lot of the time in the scriptures, it's usually been for a reason like romance, or because they're really curious about something, or they have a question they really want answered and they can't get the answer because they don't know how to ask because they don't have a body, and so they take over a person, and that's the kind of where you're like, okay, now the person's mind is put to the side, and the yokai, the Ikiryo, is now in the driver's seat, right? And then there's one which is actually quite funny, where it's involuntary on both sides. Neither side really intends to, but it kind of just happens. And it's called the tsukimono. And it's really just natural. Like, in the past, disease was explained through tsukimono. Sometimes they would think somebody who suddenly got really wealthy and really powerful was influenced by tsukimono. And neither side really intended for it, but it just kind of happened. But in this case, it's definitely, I would say, the yorimasi.
So that is maybe the whole idea of why maybe why Estrella would ally with Sakura, and basically like to, because maybe in Sakura she would see like the ability to like, or like the possibility of having like something like yokai on like under her control, which is like, again, a bit insane. Like, it's kind of crazy.
So much power.
So much power. Unlimited power.
Unlimited power. It'll be a huge game changer, especially if Sakura got her way. If she became ascendant and still wanted to stay with Hokos, do you imagine how the tides would shift if you had the armies of yokai controlled under a single yorimasi? That would be like insane, especially when the only thing that could possibly stop them is a dagger that's now broken.
I mean, we don't know if it's broken, because it might not be, because from what I was reading, the dagger was just there to basically imprison the yokai in the dagger until they forced them into the cave. So it was more of a weapon to get them in. And now the dagger, what I was reading is that the dagger is still there on its shrine, but it's kind of like became more of a decoration now because people forgot about what it actually is. And oh yeah, the actual name of the dagger is the Mamono dagger, and I don't know if that has any meaning, that word, Mamono?
That literally just translates to demon.
Ah, okay. Then...
Mamono is just demon.
So what I just think is that either Sakura used that dagger to maybe open that cave, or that she just opened it somehow else, and now someone else, maybe like the hero skin or whoever that will be, has to use the dagger to, like, you know, keep her from doing that. So like the world doesn't go under her full control.
Yeah, I mean, if a key can lock, a key can unlock, right? It's very possible. Yeah, you will have to see as more lore comes out, but I'd be very, very interested to see how much the devs have looked into the lore of Shinto things. Like the writing on the obelisk we mentioned before, that is from an old poet, right? Like, they clearly have done a lot of research, so I'm very what comes out.
Okay, then I would go to the next thing, because we were talking a lot about Sakura now. That's just so much. That's the thing. People always think there's no lore, game has no lore, but there's just so much that you could talk about for hours and hours. So we kind of like have to cut it here for now. And but yeah, the next thing I want to ask you is, you can see a bit shortly after we see Sakura, we see another Torii gate, I think, and we see these like dark specters or figures with like these, I don't know, distorted limbs and these glowing white eyes. And are these yokai? Are these yurei? What do you think these things are?
well, so I took a closer look. And at first, I thought it might have a spider relation because I took a quicker look. But I'm looking at them right now, and I looked at them a bit before, and they're still wearing clothes. I'm noticing kimonos being worn by a lot of them, if vaguely. So I am almost under no doubt that these are some form of yuri. I mentioned before, the ghosts, the souls that would possess the people that you now see later on in the video. You notice how they were acting differently? They were acting like their eyes were glowing. They're no longer themselves. No, what was the phrase? Nobushi were babbling in tongues and all that stuff. Yeah. That is definitely their fault. They are being possessed by what I think is Ikiryo. The form of yokai. If they're being possessed, that's the main way I know of.
So these
Maybe
could
they
be
have their own way?
possessed Nobushi.
Yeah, they could possess anything. Anyone.
I was just thinking about because of the kimono, but I mean it could also just be villagers, I guess. But since in the lore there were Nobushi mentioned to be like babbling and cursing and all that stuff, so who knows? We don't know that for sure. But all right, what were they called again? These yokai?
Those kind of yokai are called Ikiryo.
Ikiryo.
Yeah, with a little bit of accent at the end, so it's a little longer. Like instead of Ikiryo, it's Ikiryo. You know.
Ikiryo. Okay.
Exactly. Perfect.
So what comes right after is, I would say, the most mainstream yokai out there that people know because of media or movies or anime and all these things. And it's these little guys swimming here. Swimming here in the pond. And what can you tell us about them? Because they look quite interesting.
Oh yeah, well, they are quite literally, they are kappa. And not the kappa that you're thinking of, but instead it's
no Twitch chat in here.
It's the actual, it's literally, a river child? Like, it's a child of the river, really. It's and that's the term for them. And they live up to the name because they love to live in rivers and swamps and stuff. And they're about as big as a child. You know, so if you have like a younger, like maybe a 10-year-old brother or something like that, or sister, doesn't really matter. You know, they'd be about that big. You know, except they're quite reptilian. You know, they've got like usually like a turtle shell. They got like webbed fingers and all that stuff, and they're really good at swimming. And they usually, oh man, they have scales and everything.
Sounds like a really chill life though.
Yeah.
Just chilling around, swimming around.
Yeah. One of the, I actually looked it up because I forgot. Apparently one of the favorite things kappa like to do is eat cucumbers. That's it. That's the favorite thing. It's
That sounds so wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, so they love cucumbers and they love sumo wrestling, right?
Oh, okay. Okay,
so they
that's
just like to live their
unexpected.
Yeah, they love sumo wrestling. They're very big and sumo-like. And
Just literally
carries
just
and
wrestling and cucumbers. That's like the life.
Yeah. And you wouldn't think so, but they're actually very, very strong. Neither you nor I nor most people could ever beat a kappa in a fight or a wrestle. They are very strong for their size. And
What about the Shugoki then?
Oh, Shugoki, I don't know.
Because the Shugoki is said to have the strength of a demon.
Now that's a tough one. Maybe he might be a match for a kappa.
Have some Shugoki
Yeah.
save a villager from an angry kappa or something.
Yeah, very well could be. Because kappa aren't inherently evil or good. They're just another type of yokai. It's no different than, I don't know, a tengu. You know, like it's.
What's a tango? Now you have said that word. What's a
no,
tango?
no, sorry. So tengu is, I think it's one of the other more popular ones. Quite literally, they're like heavenly dog. It's like a dog. If you want to follow normal, like more natural ways, it's literally like, for lack of better words, dog demons, I'm gonna call them. Not really, but they're just anthropomorphic versions of dogs or wolves or things like that, to put it in a very simple sense. And if you want to be adhering to various fandoms, I suppose, if you've ever seen Toho, there's also that, yeah. And then you can tell like that the Tengu and that are more anthropomorphized in that kind of way. It's just much like how Kappa is reptilian entity, Tengu are more of a dog / wolf entity.
Are these also the same ones that are like connected to these like masks with these long noses, or was it a different kind of yokai? Because I was thinking there was like one that sounded pretty similar, or like even the same. Like for example, you have a Hitokiri mask with a really long nose, and I thought that had to do with Tengu, but I'm not sure.
So you're thinking of the Konoha Tengu. So how do I explain? How much do I remember? So I had to look it up a little bit so I can make sure I know what I'm talking about. Okay, no, yeah, I was right. The Konoha Tengu, the Konoha Tengu are the most well-known Tengu, so they're a little different. They were the original understanding of Tengu, which is like a red face, long nose. It's the most common one, and he's like kind of like a monkey god, I would say, which is a little antithetical to the point that Tengu are usually, dogs. But if you want to be entirely covered entire scope, they can have human, monkey, avian characteristics, dog characteristics. It can vary a lot. But the most common one is of dogs and wolves.
Okay. Then that was quite the explanation. So now we go back to the kappa, which you were comparing to the Tengu.
The kappa are so they're really not very aggressive. They're honestly just kind of, they exist. They chill.
Yeah, just chill. Okay, yeah, it's a very valid life.
Yeah, but the only difference is, they still demand respect. They're still very much so, type of, like. So, although they're often considered yokai, they are actually, like they are kami. It's very, very, very odd because I always get them mixed up. All the time. In that, kappa are well understood as yokai, but they are kami, right? Even I keep calling them yokai, and actually, that's what get me killed.
By a kappa.
By a kappa. I'm like,
Maybe that's why they're so
fucking
angry.
right now.
Maybe that's why they're so angry in this picture, because everyone calls them yokai, and they're like, we were no yokai, and you entrapped us in this stupid tree or cave.
Exactly. It's like, how dare you not respect me as kami? How dare you? And I would I call them yokai when I first described them, right? And I'm just so used to calling them that because they're so similar to every other yokai. You know what I mean? But they're actually kami. And they're similar. And I would have my face punched in. You know what I mean? I would be losing a nose for sure.
Oh my. So yeah, that makes sense on why they would be a bit angry at the samurai who just kind of collectively put all the kami and yokai into one place because frick them all, I guess.
Yeah,
so it would make sense that they're now coming out and they're like, yeah, you have no fucking clue what you did. We are not even yokai. So,
Exactly. It's like, what? Just because I don't look pretty, I'm not a kami? How dare you?
It's funny how we're taking the side of the yokai now, who are probably like the one of the biggest threats to date in the lore. But I mean,
Here's a funny thing though. It's quite interesting. In the Furana lore, yokai are considered entirely evil. If you hear, oh no, yokai, oh no. But actually, yokai are just, what's the translation, like mysterious apparition? It's just spirits and entities. That's all this. They can be friendly, they can be helpful, they can be silly, they can be crazy, they can be malevolent, right? Kappa and Tengu are yokai. But as I said, not all kappa are evil. And Tengu don't have to be either. They all have their own personalities and style. So when they use the broad term yokai in the Furana lore, it almost kind of bugs me. Not really, but it almost does, because it's assuming that all yokai are evil. All yokai are terrible. If we release the yokai, we're releasing demons. There's a reason yokai does not translate to demon, right? So, but it's just there's so many different kinds, you know? It's
it would make sense for me why they would be still angry with the samurai or like people overall now, since you know, like maybe the samurai back then were kind of like, I mean, in Forno lore, were a little bit, you know, what do you call it, a bit ignorant, and were just basically like punishing all yokai because of maybe the deeds of one specific one, which we will talk about later. And maybe that's why they are now all angry. Maybe before they weren't, you know, like their actual enemies, but because of the deeds of a specific yokai, they were still treated the same way as the enemy yokai. So now they are kind of like joined with the yokai who's basically also kind of at fault for their imprisonment. But since it was the humans, or like the samurai who did this to them, they are now basically also angry. And I think that would make, in my head kind of now, the most sense why they would still be mean to the samurai now.
Yeah, if you look at the arts regarding the demon dagger, you can see the kappa being with the yurei. It could very well have been that the demon dagger also imprisoned and took them for somehow. And they could have just come out and be like, I am pissed. You treated me like yokai? You know?
Yeah, maybe that's actually the point of the dagger, is that the dagger doesn't know the difference, and just has like, it's made in the way of like anything spiritual, I'm gonna trap it, I'm gonna put it away, I'm gonna lock it away. And basically like that could powerful. Be that these kappa were basically just kind of like collateral damage in that regard. And now they're pissed because we were just chilling and eating cucumbers and wrestling.
It looks monstrous! Oh no! Quickly, get it!
Pokemon.
Yeah, you gotta catch them all, yeah? Exactly. I mean, again, not all kappa are bad, but not many of them are good either. They just want to live on their own, you know?
Yeah, we just leave them alone. Just leave them alone and you will be fine, is the thing, I guess.
Pay respect to them because they are kami. Other than that, leave them alone.
Then again, pay respect to everyone, right? Like
well,
to other humans too. Yeah.
The whole point of Shintoism, pay respect to everyone and everything. Did you know there is a kami for toilets?
Really?
And if you don't pay respect to toilets, you could suffer, who knows?
Oh no, I will always be kind to my toilet from now on. Thank you for the warning.
No problem. No, it's okay.
Now when we watch a bit further, we see actually the Mamono dagger, and I just wanted to ask, even though I think it's just for like, you know, visual, like, you know, style and all that stuff, but does the like bones and the like little skulls and like the kind of like spine that goes along with the blade, does it have like any meaning, or is it literally just for like, you know, fashion points?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So as for the design itself, I can't attribute it to anything too anything too specific. The closest I could maybe think of it is the spines on the back of the dagger. I feel they could attribute, again, Kappa, because it looks kind of reptilian, or I suppose demonic, or I think it was just designed that way to maybe look edgy and powerful, like, oh, it's exotic. But I can't individually think of anything off the top of my head what it specifically is characterizing. And a lot of what we've talked about is I'm going off memory, and I don't have my books in front of me and all that stuff, so please forgive me, comment section if I am totally inaccurate for some things, but I didn't want to write a script. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about.
We're real here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I think it's just design. I think it's just a nice design for a nice dagger. I don't know if it attributes to anything specifically, but it looks wicked, curved, sharp. You know, it looks like if you hold it, you'll get tetanus or something. It's very it's very nice.
And even if it's like Kappa bones, and we had another reason why the Kappa would be angry, I guess.
Exactly. If it actually has to do, oh my goodness, if you ever utilized any form of Kami's power or energy without their consent, oh my goodness, that is such a disrespect. Oh.
That is just so interesting to just speculate, because I don't think we will get any like deeper dive into that, but just speculating like that, or like, you know, thinking like that might be the reason why they are so angry. It just helps giving like a complete different perspective on things happening right now and why they're happening. So that is really, really cool, I think.
Yeah, honor, respect, integrity. It's the core tenets, really. I mean, in Shintoism, there's no like, it's not like Christianity. I said it before. It's not like Christianity or Catholicism, but it's like, here's a book of how to be, right?
Yeah.
It's more just respect. Be respectful. Have honor in everything you do. Understand that everything can be filled with life and energy, and as such can be influenced by the kami. The very same ground you're walking on is as notable as the sun that you see every day, you know? It's quite a big thing. So if you disrespect that, and especially if you're intentionally disrespecting that,
Ooh. Would want to be that person.
Yeah, you're gonna ruin it for everybody.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, the next thing we see here, that is actually something that I really have never seen before, really, anywhere, is that, also I didn't even see that before in that trailer when I first watched it, but we see the samurai obviously being possessed by, oh god, I forgot the name again. What did you call them?
You mean the ones that are possessing?
Yes.
The Ikiryo?
Ikiryo, yeah. That was something, I mean, I guess it's just the same, but this time like they're possessing the minions, I guess, or the soldiers, the samurai soldiers. But what I actually was missing before is that in these statues, they are like, basically the statues are like cages for small little people, or like shadow people. And I wonder if you maybe know what these are. I'm sending you a screenshot of how they look in game, so maybe you get a better idea.
Let's see. What was I thinking of a Katsura? It's interesting. It kind of makes me think of a Toro lantern, but it's different. I don't know. I almost want to say, and I'm just making this up, I mean, I am not sure, that it's some kind of imprisonment for various souls. But at the same time, I don't want to speculate wrongly or guess. But I actually never saw this. I played a bunch of Temple Garden recently and I never looked at this. This is so, I mean, naturally, so what's interesting is things like this could also count towards something a kami could, you know, get into, to not possess, I guess, but, you know, possess, you know, to be, you know what I mean. But I can't imagine that this would have been defiled to like trap kami energy. I mean, they look like people.
Or maybe these are souls from the humans that they like, kind of like. That would be even more like I would say crazy if basically the angry yokai are like taking the bodies of the samurai and then entrapping their souls, like, or like imprisoning their souls like they were imprisoned. If that would be a thing that they could do, I mean, I don't know how much For Honor, like how much the writers were taking certain freedoms to adjust mythology there, but I could see that as a kind of revenge, you know, for being entrapped. Like, now we are doing this to you.
The best explanation I could give you, and I'm purely guessing based on what I know, is that when Ikiryo have chosen to, inhabit the bodies of various people, that the original soul that was in that body, in normal Shinto lore, as I will call it, the soul is still there. It's just the vessel is driven by somebody else. But in this situation, they could have taken more practical, like physical aspects of it and put the souls of those possessed into statues like this. But so that the soul can't come back to the body that has been inhabited. But again, I'm not too sure. But it makes I'll have to look this up later because this is very interesting. Maybe my books can show me something about this.
I could also just see it in a way of like take like that. I mean, since in For Honor many things are taken to the extreme in many kind of like different mythological aspects. Like, for example, Jormungandr being actually there and stuff in the Jormungandr event. Maybe that is just another like thing where they like go beyond what we have in like, I would say, real life lore. And it's basically yokai maybe are so upset that they were away for so long, or like being like, imprisoned for so long, that they're kind of adapting new ways to basically punish humans for what they did. So now they're kind of like doing this new thing of like, we used to possess people by just like taking over, but now we're taking over forever, and we are like kind of like here to like completely fuck your whole shit up. And
Indeed,
that is something I could see. That makes things even more dark. Like the more we dive into this, the more I see how like really like grim this actually all is. It's stuff that can't really translate too much into like what we have in the game right now. Obviously because of like hardware limitations and all that stuff. But like just by like from like looking into this and reading into this, it's like really like oof, that's really dark.
Yeah, and I think there's something interesting to be said about two things. One, Shinto lore, I suppose. I keep saying it, but this is what I'm going to use. Shinto mythology, sure, we'll say that, in case you believe it to be so. We have never really properly experienced a physical manifestation of a lot of things in this sort of way in real life. So when you see it like this, as it's taking a physical embodiment in some way, like the cages inside the statues, it's new, right? It's unprecedented, I suppose. So I can only say so much, and I would never want to disrespect anything by assuming something when I could be wrong. But it's very interesting. And two, if we are to take executions into account, alright, if we have to take executions into account, the Demon Dagger execution literally takes the soul from a person's body, and those people are not possessed. Like, if you see the execution, you'll see how they stab, and then it has the kanji for death shows up. So the kanji literally for death shows up, and then power, and the person doesn't take any injuries from that, but they fall over dead. Was the soul taken? Was the energy taken? Or was it just a simple nullification of life? I don't know.
And nullification of life sounds way more terrifying than being entrapped in a dagger. Because like that would just mean like, yeah, you are like now non-existent, which is like
You don't exist now.
the next thing
Goodbye,
to like, you know, being just dead, like as a soul or like a spirit. Like you don't go into an afterlife, you're literally just gone, like deleted,
Gone.
which is like
Your vessel to be used by somebody else.
way more terrifying.
And that, I'll take death. Thank you.
And now we come to the big topic, and that is in the end of the, or like I would say the middle of the trailer, but the end of the actual like drawings or like animated part of the trailer. You can see these, first of all these webs, like in these, what you also hear the Orochi talking about, like a web has been woven and there is no escape. And now you see these trees, or like these like, I guess it's trees, branches that look very similar to, I would say, a spider. And
Yeah, there's 8 legs.
since it's all about yokai and all this creepy demon stuff, can you tell us anything about if there is like any like spider related yokai and what they do, how they look?
Absolutely. So there's basically 2 different kinds that I know of the most. Spider yokai. One's the main one that, you know, that when you think of a spider yokai, you go, oh, this one. And the other one's kind of like, yeah, it exists, but nobody really thinks of it, at least for me. There is the Jorogumo, and there is a Tsukumo. To say that slower, it's Jorogumo and Tsuchigumo. So the first one is literally like, I don't remember the literal translation for it. But it's like female spider. Like, do you know what a Dryder is?
A what?
A Dryder? It's not a Japanese word, but you know, like it's like a woman
No.
and a spider. Okay, well, a Dryder in if you play Dungeons and Dragons and such like that, you'll know this. It's like a half woman, half spider.
Okay, yeah. So basically, a woman that goes like until like the waist, until the waist, it's a woman, and after that, it's basically just the body of a spider.
A Dryder, yeah, exactly. That's my closest way of it. But they can change, so they can be a very beautiful woman, right? Or they can be a big scary spider, or as seen many times, they could be both. And then sometimes they could be a woman controlling a bunch of smaller spiders, you know, the spider's children, you know, the
That we have
spiderlings.
heard of before.
Exactly. So that's my big theory, that it's a Jorogumo. I'm definitely butchering that phrase because I'm going to English to Japanese, so English is messing with me. but that's my thoughts, because it's referencing spider's children. It looks like a big spider. It's just the most obvious one to me. Now, Jorogumo are not usually malevolent. They don't have to be malevolent. They can be very manipulative. Usually, if they're talking with you, and you know one's talking to you, it's because you've probably done something to them. Like if you shoot a spider, who was trying to live in your home for safety, it might come back as a Jorogumo. Be like, hey, you idiots! I was just looking for help. But they wouldn't tell you that. They'd be like, you know, oh no, I want to marry you or something, you know. But that's my thoughts. I believe the spiders can breathe fire, if I remember correctly. And the small ones, something like that. I remember art. I've seen it before. By Toriyama-san. The other one I'm thinking of is much, you know, more less used. It's called, you know, the Tsuchigumo. And it's like a earth version. It's like it's literally like a dirt spider, you know. And those specifically are mentioned to be 8-legged spiders. Right? The only difference is a lot of the ratings about them have said different things, like, although it's a spider, it has the body of a tiger, despite being 8-legged, which if I ever saw an 8-legged tiger, I would crap my pants and run away.
It's a spider.
That's my second. Yes, spider! Yes, sir! A spider! Let's go! Go no spider! No. But it's possible. Because it's so earthen, it's so tree-based, all that kind of stuff. But that's my second guess. But I think it's the first one, and I think it's just the for lack of a better word, the true form of the Zorogumo. And I think that's it. I think it's one of those two. And looking at the picture here, it could just be trees, but you can tell which ones are trees.
I mean,
and which ones are
we
not.
also literally have like, wait, let me see where it is. Cause here, wait, I'm just sending this to you really quick. We have literally these in Temple Garden at the shrine, which are just
That's
giant
right, the eggs.
spider eggs. Yes.
That's not the creation of a tree, that's for sure.
No, that's not tree babies.
Not just that, but the corpse right underneath the legs. It's
Wait,
very
what?
interesting. If you look at the original art again from the trailer,
Oh yeah, okay. That
you
is a
can see the
shinobi,
corpse.
I think.
I think it is a shinobi. Yeah, I think it is a shinobi. It's, well, maybe not, because it's not. He's got this a blade on the side that looks not like what the
I think the person is like looking like a shinobi, but maybe that's just creative freedom, I guess, or creative liberty, like, you know.
Perhaps, yes. An identifiable weapon to say, oh, it's abandoned.
It's a dead samurai, that's for sure.
That exactly, yeah. It's using a straight-edged sword too, which typically shinobi would be the only ones to use them because they're more concealable. So, but yeah. That I genuinely think that Orochi is looking at the Jorogumo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that's why he's like, oh no.
Yeah, that is an accurate thing I would also do if I would see a big spider like that.
Yeah, me too.
I probably, the thing is, I would I'd probably faint right after. I would probably be like, yep, no, I'm out. I'm gonna just drop.
Yeah, I'm lunch.
I mean, what
Yeah,
also makes sense now is that in certain lores, we hear of that some say that the yokai have a mother, and no one knows how she looks, and no one knows, like, or no one that has met her has lived to, speak of her. So, I mean, a mother and like little spider hatchlings, all these things, like spider children. It seems pretty obvious to me that this is like the quote-unquote mother of the yokai, or at least of certain yokai that we may see later on in the season. But yeah, I'm really, really curious about that. And if that's true,
I can imagine,
then
yeah.
it really sounds like it's a Jorogumo?
Jorogumo. It's a hard one to say. Jorogumo. Yeah, I'll give you the writing here. I'll show you.
Oh yeah, Jorogumo.
Yeah. So you can tell that the accent is an accentuation. So instead of Jorogumo, it'd be Jorogumo. A little bit of an extension.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's kind of like an O and a U, like O, U, Jorogumo. It's weird. So you
Yeah.
say it however you want.
Okay.
I'm messing it up because I'm speaking English and I'm going It's totally like, I guarantee I'm gonna get comments being like, she is pronouncing it all wrong. And
Yeah,
it's like,
Google
okay,
Translate.
yeah, Google Translate. Yeah, guys, sorry, let me. My Google Translate. 1 second. Yeah. Jorogumo.
Oh.
I don't understand these moon runes. But yeah. But yeah, that's definitely my thought. Definitely a spider mother, the spider mother of the yokai or something like that. And if that is true, that is cruel as ever, and I respect it.
And now that brings me back to what we like started with, or like kind of what we started with, is if Sakura wants to be a Yorimashi, could it be that she's trying to convince, or like that she freed this specific yokai, this Yorogumo, Jorogumo, that she maybe tries to be the Yorimashi for that yokai, for that specific spider yokai.
Yeah. Sakura's intentions have always been really mysterious. As mysterious as the really kami themselves. And I don't have a good bead on what she may be trying to do. So I'm thinking, but I mean, unless she proves otherwise, I am just assuming that Sakura is looking to control the spider mother, through great exaltation of force, and some kind of use through that. And I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. I wish I had more answers, but we're
We have to find out.
The juicy bits.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, that is definitely going to be a podcast, because that is way more than that took way longer than I anticipated, which is cool because we got so many.
I'm sorry.
No, it was really cool because it's so many answers, so many things, and that's exactly what I mean when I say I'm really into the For Honor lore, because For Honor lore is not really only like For Honor lore, it's also very, very much connected to just actual beliefs and mythology, and there's just so much that you can learn and nerd about, and this is exactly why I'm into this stuff, why I'm into For Honor lore and why this is so exciting to me and to many other people as well.
Yeah, it's not just good evil. It's like,
yeah, that's what many people say, like, oh, For Honor lore turned only good evil with Hawkers and Chimera, but it's just like it's always so easy to say, oh, this is good or this is evil. Like what I only see when I think of For Honor and I think of the stories that are told there, I always just think that's human stories. That's human, and that's like their beliefs, and that is what is so very exciting about why what excites me so much about this, and why I think there is no actual really good or evil. Just because something is portrayed as something more edgy, I mean, you could say edgy, it doesn't really mean always it's directly completely evil. I think it's always just human, because everyone has like the Kyoshin say, everyone has this in themselves, good or bad, or more not so nice deeds.
And I mean, if you think about and this is a gripe that got me. I always had lots of arguments it is good and evil though. It's the Griffin and Chimera. Versus Apollyon. Versus Astrea and Hokos. Oh, the Hokos literally commit cannibalism. Meanwhile, Griffin, the Griffin, the Chimera Alliance, it has feasts and stuff. Why would they do that when there's so much food? But there wasn't. It wasn't that just, oh, we're committing cannibalism because we want to, because it's funny. It's because there's famines there.
Yes. It's very much of how I like the. It's just a little I would say, you could say conspiracy or theory, but I think the devs have a lot of fun with making that story, because the reactions that or the way how the community reacts, I feel influences the way the story goes in the future, because in the end the players are the warriors of Heathmore, and they are their reactions are basically what happens, also what is happening in the lore, because it's kind of how do I say it? It's there is no direct line between oh, here that is that is the players and that is the in-game characters, because they're kind of mixed. They're kind of flowing into each other, and like, you know, it's kind of mixing up a little bit. So, for example, Chimera and Horcrux are literally kind of like were formed out of things that the community did in the past before all this stuff started. For example, the Chimera Alliance, for some that don't know, that's some extra lore now. Like, if you were just here for the seasonal stuff, that is where we end that. But for the ones who want to stay a little bit longer, for some extra bits, Chimera is kind of based off a project of the creative community, which my girlfriend was also involved in. That was where many different artists have placed their character with their style on a picture, where basically there was a banquet, like a big table, and it was like it was inspired by the Last Supper, the picture, the Last Supper, with Jesus and his apostles. And there was Dobany sitting in the middle, and he was surrounded by all these different warriors of different factions and all that stuff, and different classes. And on top of Dobany was a shield. If I find the picture, I will put on the video. But there was a shield of all the factions, and there was antlers on over that. And that was completely like created by the community, like and by the creative community. And it was a way to, like, you know, show, like, yeah, even like if, you know, like, there are different factions, the players like still as one, like, you know, quote unquote, like, world, you know, like, we hold together for, like, because we love the game and all that stuff. And they kind of like took that, and now we have a Chimera Banquet led by Dobany, and Chimera has the symbol now of or like uses the symbol or uses the heart, which is also kind of like something like a deer, as a symbol for their covenant. And why Horcrux is mainly based on I'd say people like me who were very much just Apollyon fangirls. And we're like looking a lot into that.
It's awesome. That's fine.
Yeah, well, I was looking back then. I was looking a lot into Apollyon's philosophy, and like just, I mean, you know, I'm a sucker for like villains with like, you know, tragic background stories and stuff. So I was just looking into that, and I was like thinking about, like, you know, I was interested why did she become who she became in the end. Also, many people don't actually know that Apollyon has an actual background story involving a lawbringer that went.
Yeah, in fact, isn't she wearing the armor?
Yes, she's wearing the armor.
The lawbringer that let her village burn when she asked for help.
Basically, the lawbringer, like, Apollyon was a little girl in Ashfeld somewhere, or like in the scrublands of Ashfeld. And at one point, a lawbringer came and said, yeah, you are not worth enough to be protected by our forces, and we have to take our forces out of here to, like, you know, use them elsewhere in the war. And that basically made their village a target for the Vikings, which came to raid it, and that was where everyone died but little Apollyon. And that the name of that lawbringer was Dante. And like, Apollyon was like, I'm going to hunt you down. And she did this over so long. She was like training, she was abandoned, she was a soldier, she became a warden even. But through all these parts of her life, she still kept that grudge against this lawbringer, which is why so many people say like Apollyon was like so wise or something, when Apollyon's whole motives of, like, you know, creating this, like, you know, world for wolves, or like this kind of chaos, this anarchy, it all in the end stems from that one big, you know, like grudge she had against the lawbringer, that even when she killed him, when she found him and killed him back then, it still didn't, you know, like, it still wasn't, it still didn't change anything for her mental state, I would say. So she kind of like was like, now revenge I did this.
Usually doesn't do much for you.
Yeah, now I had my revenge, and now things are still shit, and now things are still unfair in the world, and I think that she couldn't really deal with that. And that is why she did all this, like, you know, very, I would say even selfish thing of, like, you know, oh, I put my way of life on everyone else. Which is something I think, I mean, Estrella does that as well, but I think Estrella is like, it's why I always like to say Estrella is really not Apollyon, like, not at all. Like, she is like way more fanatical about things, and she seeks more control than Apollyon ever like did, because Apollon's goal was very much just like a personal one, if you could say, while Estrella actually has a, I don't want it to say like this, but a way that does not only let her profit, but also people that would see, like she is here to like quote unquote save the world in her own twisted way, and that is very much different to Apollyon. And yeah, but basically me looking into all this stuff, like other people being like, yeah, Apollyon's so cool, blah blah. That is basically where like Hawkers is based on, like this looking into this like villain, this kind of like tragic villain, and but looking deeper into that philosophy from a lore standpoint, and yeah, that is I think where Hawkers kind of stems from, and that's just very I think that is very cool because it's not really completely like evil and good for me. Of course, they're like one side is like obviously more edgy than the other. But in the end, they're all just like, what I always see is, I just see humans. I see human behavior that, like kind of makes sense in that way, in that universe, where, I mean, it's also like people say, oh yeah, in real life that would never work like that. And like, yeah, true. Because real life, we don't have certain like mythological aspects like, magic or, Draconite. Oh, I don't want to say that word because many people will be like, no, she said the bad word. But it's part of the lore, and it's it's very much a fantasy setting, and yeah, I think for the fantasy setting it very much makes sense that how things happen like right now in the lore. I think it makes sense. It's not too far from I think how humans would act in that way.
Rational fallibility is still a possible plot point. Apollyon was made who she was based on her circumstances, and a lot of people agree with it. In her view, if the people she worked under were wolves, they would be spoiling for the fight. They'd be like, you know what? We pride ourselves in our combative ability. We would have defended that village, blah blah blah, instead of the sheep that she thought they were. Yeah, absolutely. And Astrea is following the paths, but not knowing the reasons. Because
no, I think she knows. I think she actually knows the reasons. What I see in Astrea is more of a. What was said in the lore is that Astrea is angry or like is kind of like done with fighting wars that are unjust, which does not necessarily mean that she doesn't like war, that she doesn't want war, but she doesn't like war that has no meaning, that has no reason. She doesn't want people to die in battles that they don't care about, that they're not fighting for, where they're not fighting for what they believe in. And I think she's bringing that whole thing of battle instead of like between like these politics and all that stuff. She's taking this thing of war and battle to a, you could say, religious thing and a spiritual thing, a way of life of like violence is there to bring yourself forward, and if you want to rise in my world that I envision, you can get to that like higher point, like you can rise in the hierarchy by just being a warrior, and that is something that you would never be able to do in like the quote unquote old world where there were still lords and kings and all these things that basically were just forcing warriors to like basically like fight and die for them, even though they have not proven themselves. And that is like I think what she tries to do is like she's pulling the strings, so only the ones that she thinks are worthy enough can be leaders and stuff. And for that she needs to keep control over these people, something that Apollyon didn't do. Apollyon just thought this all will happen on its own, and people will like see that she's right, and then everyone will just do like as she thinks. But she was wrong, because people will in the end, or like certain people will always go back to like wanting to be ruled and wanting like peace, of course, which is like a very logical thing to want. But
not everybody wants to be a leader.
Yeah, and that's actually also a thing that as well a point and like a point as well as Astrea, where like I guess honoring or like because you could say the a wolf would like just kill prey and then move on, or like basically like people were saying like Apollyon and Hawkers was just killing all the weaklings, but that's not true, because they say, or in Apollyon's words, the weak cannot be blamed for who they are, but neither should they be allowed to deny it. So they are not necessarily always being killed off or something. They're just the weak, or what Estrella or like Warmonger says in her lines, in her voice lines, the weak serve the strong. So it's not only to, like, you know, she's not there to like just draw out all the wolves all the time and get all the, like, you know, basic. It's not about purging the world from the weaklings. It's about the strong just taking over control of the weaklings who are, like, you know, otherwise maybe would, in her eyes, lead the world into like ruin through politics and, you know, corruption and all that stuff. So that is where Hawkers stems from. And I think, even though it's of course a completely wrong way to go about it, but that is where the motives, I think, for Hawkers come from. And that is a motive that is at least understandable. And it is a human thing to, you know, like, think that way.
Yeah.
And that's something that many people always like try, like, that's the thing I feel like many For Honor players could maybe learn, and that is like, put yourself in the shoes of someone else, like, think in different ways. Try to think in the way that, you know, like, other people would do. Don't always go from your personal bias. I think that would help many people a lot in their lives.
I agree. Especially, don't look at things so shallowly. Like, even the phrase, the weak shall serve the strong. That's not like a shallow view of that. It's not like, oh yeah, the weak people, the weak, physically weak, emotionally weak, little crybabies shall serve. No, weak is also attributed to corrupt people, people who fall to sin or similar things, people who can't make decisions, people who make bad decisions.
Yes.
People who, again, will lead unjust wars because of personal fancy, as opposed to reason and need. Those are weak, like, morally weak too, you know?
Yes. There was also said in the law that there was a thing where they said, according to Hawkers, if I find it, I will also show it in the video, but there was a thing where they said, according to the views of the Hawkers, like, the cause of evil is weakness in many aspects. And of course it's always like generalizing things, but I feel like both sides have definitely, like, both like Chimera and Hawkers both definitely have their sides where they're really correct about, you know, like, human flaws, and that these flaws should be you know, like, addressed and should be changed. But both also have their, like, you know, their own flaws of, like, how they would go with the world. They're not thinking too much about the consequences that might have for the individual, because both covenants think in the greater picture, but both, I think, are in the end too focused, as all, like, you know, systems, I guess, like, you know, like a ruling, like, systems of like political systems, they always think more of the overall thing, of the, like, greater picture, but never on the little picture of the little person. And that is something.
Such as Apollyon when she was young.
Yes, and that is, I think, what will inevitably lead to, like, this never-ending war, is because people will never be only one or the other. So they will always. It's like, this is like literally the eternal war, I think, that is going on for, or will go on for a while. It depends how long the game will go on, or like how long the game will be supported.
Yeah, exactly. And there's still the three factions fighting. Now, how influenced are all three factions of the faction war? How heavily influenced are they by Chimera or Hawkers, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's deep. I enjoy. I like the lore. I like what they're doing. I like the writing. I find it fun.
Yes. All right, then that, I think, was quite a talk, and I enjoyed a lot. Thank you for being here, and
It's
for
been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
going through all these different topics with me. And yeah, we will see how things will go in the story of the season, and I'm very much excited for anything that is to come, especially for, you know, this new maybe spider yokai skin for who knows what hero, Nobushi, Kensei, Orochi, we don't know. Nobushi. I mean, it would make sense, right? It would make sense. Beautiful woman turning spider, yes, that would fit for you as well, because maybe you can tell us a little bit of your what your nickname actually means.
Oh yeah, so actually Haplogynae is a type of spider. I love spiders. I am a huge fandom. My identity. I have spiders in my room that I pay attention to and love. I had a tarantula back in Japan that I literally called Arakuni. You know, like.
Oh yeah, Arachne. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Haplogynae is literally just the name of a type of araneomorph spider. With the other one being enterogynae. It's there's nothing special about it. And that's why I chose it. That and that Haplogynae tend to have 6 eyes instead of 8. Haha.
Ooh.
But the reason I chose Haplogynae is because 1, it's a spider, you know, and 2, it's not a very special spider. And I like that because
Yes.
I don't want to be characterized special because of what I am, but who I am. You know what I
You're
mean?
just a casual little spider just doing her thing.
Exactly.
Alright then, I say goodbye to you, I say goodbye to people watching, and I hope to be able to do something like this sooner or later again. Probably next season or maybe at the end of this season. Depends on how much stuff, new stuff is coming and if it's worth talking about. Also, if you would like to, you know, like see more of this kind of stuff in a shorter format, let me know and I see what I can do. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here, Katsumi, and bye.